that for entertainment.
It's hard for a director to get away from what he feels comfortable doing, because I could have ended up just making sort of films about wonky donkey cockneys in the provinces of London. I suppose like Sherlock was a deliberate experiment to see if you could get out of that.
Right, you've had your fun.
After we finished Sherlock Holmes, Warner Brothers came to us with a bunch of projects that they had.
He replaced the works of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle with the most popular show of the 1960s, The Man from U.N.C.L.E. It was written by another master of English prose, Ian Fleming, the author of James Bond novels.
Someone said, look, Man from U.N.C.L.E., and I remembered the series from the 70s, reruns in the UK. And I remembered loving them. So that's all I needed.
The story took place several years after the Cuban Missile Crisis and told of the founding of the Agents of U.N.C.L.E., something which the TV show never developed. This allowed the screenwriters creative freedom. They invented a new plot and complete backstory for the characters.
Well, what we were trying to do was just capture the tone of the original.
I made sure I didn't go back to the source material. I just, whatever it was that I remembered, I tried to capture.
Loving your work, cowboy.
Warner Brothers Studio had been trying to launch a remake for more than 10 years until Guy and Lionel presented their vision.
We inherited a draft that we could do nothing with at all.
At the same time, another era of strained relations between Russia and the USA ensued, giving the narrative additional charm.
And an American and a Russian at the height of the Cold War just felt like a great opportunity for storytelling.
We have no choice but to work together on this.
With no hesitation, they were given a budget of $75 million, and by March of 2013, they started working on their third consecutive project.
That's it. That's all you got.
The casting process was marked by some confusion when choosing actors. While still writing, Guy had imagined the role of Napoleon Solo being played by Tom Cruise. Cruise was intrigued by both the script and the opportunity to work with Ritchie.
But you can tell there was all sorts of issues with that because of Mission Impossible and yada, yada, yada. So we did a dance with Tom for some time before that sort of fell apart. Henry, who's Superman for those that don't know, came in as the Russian initially.
But Illya Kuryakin's role was taken by Armie Hammer, who had just been rejected for the role of Superman in the film Man of Steel.
But it was important that, harking back to the original series, that the Russian was blonde. Henry's not blonde, he's conspicuously dark, and Armie was leading the charge because he looked more sensible blonde. Henry looked pretty silly when we put blonde wigs on him. So when it fell apart with Tom, he slotted into that position very nicely.
Thank you very much.
Henry agreed to be in the film on one condition, that he wouldn't have to take off his clothes on camera after several films in a row where the script required just that. Ritchie agreed to his request immediately.
Сделка была заключена, и с тех пор Соло стал их самым успешным и продуктивным агентом.
You look important. Or at least your suit does.
Alicia Vikander concluded the search for the three main characters when she landed the role of Gabby.
No.
Smoothly done.
The project was then joined by Elizabeth Debicki, who amazed Ritchie with her performance in the drama The Great Gatsby and reminded him of Catherine Deneuve. The role of Vittoria Vinciguerra seemed as though written for her. By the way, Vinciguerra in Italian literally means win war.
Mummy says hello.
For the whole acting ensemble, the main obstacle in character development was the accents. Henry was an Englishman playing an American.
I thought I was doing so well.
Armie was an American playing a Russian.
What are you talking about?
Alicia Vikander was a Swede playing a German. And Elizabeth Debicki was an Australian playing a typical Brit.
You don't look like you slept much last night, Mr. Devaney.
In August, the ensemble was joined by Hugh Grant, who was excited to finally get a chance to work with Ritchie.
Yeah, I've always thought his films were very cool.
After you saw it, he said, by the way, Guy, that's the first time I've been in a cool film.
Quite different from anything I've ever been involved in. So
the idea being that, if this works and we were lucky enough to go back and make another one, that Hugh would have a much larger part.
Rather good idea.
The last roles to be filled were by Luca Calvani and Jared Harris, who, just like in the case with the Holmes sequel, received his invitation a few weeks before filming started.
But don't ever make the calamitous error of mistaking my deliberate short-sightedness for blindness.
The similarities to A Game of Shadows didn't end there. Harris acted in two almost identical scenes in Sherlock Holmes and Agents of U.N.C.L.E. It's impossible to avoid further comparisons with his previous trilogy, a trio made up of two incompatible but dependent on one another men, and a beautiful, mysterious woman. But it goes even deeper. These roles are references to Guy's favorite film, which was part of the inspiration for creating both pictures, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
Well, we're back in business, boys and girls, just like the old days.
Speaking of inspiration, there's a whole lineup of pictures worth mentioning. Illya Kuryakin's costume imitates Eric Lenscher's from X-Men First Class. The walk taken by Illya and Gabby is shot in the same spot as the scene from Roman Holiday.
Why don't you tell me a bit about the steps?
And Federico Fellini's La Dolce Vita inspired Guy to insert the scenes, which took place in Italy.
And we were particularly inspired by the Italy of La Dolce Vita, which I think probably is the most glamorous aspect of the 60s.
The chase scene on the island was a nod to the scene in The Great Escape. The designers even used the exact same replica of the motorcycle. During the bike scenes, Armie Hammer didn't use stunt doubles. Competition between Henry and Armie was not limited to their characters. The actors were constantly competing in their abilities and tried to do all their own stunts.
You jump out of the window and it's not supporting you at all, like you're free falling at the ground and it catches you at the very last second.
Even for the sake of a tablecloth, Cavill took lessons from the popular illusionist, Matt Ricardo.
Tess is a little heavy with the lipstick.
However, their love for danger almost led to a tragic incident. The boat chase scene ended in the saving of Kuryakin. The actors did the scene underwater. In order to stay on the floor, Armie would insert his foot into a special weight. When Henry grabbed Hammer, the actor was supposed to release his angle and swim up. But the first attempt ended in Cavill trying to pull both his partner and the heavy weight up to the surface. Even Superman couldn't handle the task, and he let Armie go. Thankfully, there were scuba divers at the ready, who immediately helped the actor get to the surface.
My hair.
Guy was constantly rewriting the script, and almost every morning surprised the film crew with something new.
The other thing is you'll be surprised about the props that turn up once you're on location, which does inform a scene.
We ran all these scenes in his living room for weeks before we got onto set. And if something was working in his living room, it wouldn't mean something would be working when we got it to set and put it in that real situation. So there was a lot of freedom.
So inevitably we end up working on the script quite a lot. And you know, the actors are very involved in that process.
So you could say, you know, Guy, I think this might be good if we kind of did something like this. And he'd look at you and go, yeah, that might be good. Or he'd go, that's total shit. Do not ever suggest that again.
To the amazing John Mathiasen, who was brought into the project by gaffer Chuck Finch, who had worked with Ritchie on the Holmes films, and with Mathiasen on Robin Hood and Kingdom of Heaven. Something special about Guy's directing is the way in which he trusts the cinematographer 100%. He prefers to stay out of the operator's work, concentrating on the screenplay, relationship with the actors, and editing. When speaking of the agents of Uncle, the costume designers especially stand out. Joanna Johnston became famous for her work on the wardrobes of Steven Spielberg and Robert Zemeckis films, and has a list of credits that span the greatest hits of cinematography. Joanna's presence in the project was a guarantee that the picture's wardrobe would be high class.
I like this. Yes.
The aesthetic of the 60s was very important to us. So the clothes became an actor, if you will, within the film. So clothes played a big part in it. And actually, I'm surprised how much attention the film's got because of the clothes that are involved in it.
A bow tie doesn't work with that suit.
Especially considering that the suits were sewn for Napoleon Solo by Timothy Everest, who for 20 years had been sewing suits for James Bond and the Mission Impossible films. There was nothing to criticize.
Yeah, that skill set's never wanting for employment.
The director's approach to special effects is worthy of notice as well. Ritchie insisted on a new and original take on every stunt combined with minimal use of computer graphics. This forced the film crew to invent incredible tricks.
The big challenge, I think, in these movies that involve action is coming up with action that feels fresh. And I think creatively, that's probably the hardest challenge in many ways for us.
Cars being driven driven on roofs, and rails sunken into the walls of buildings were just the tip of the iceberg, since the chase scene was probably the hardest thing to film in the director's career.
Hold on.
In the script, it was described as a ballet of cars, and we can agree that the special effects department made that metaphor come to life. The second most difficult scene was the escape from the secret factory, which included everything from jumping without doubles and midnight filming sessions in frigid water to a truck landing on a boat.
And this rig would allow it to land exactly on the spot. Guy, at the very beginning, had seen these guys drive a car at really high speed towards the lake, and they don't sink in it because they're going at such high speed. They literally aquaplane across the lake. Special tyres were added, and the vehicle was pumped up. I think that's a movie first that you've never seen before. But when you see that car going across that lake, that car is hovering across that lake. I was like, oh, shit.
The last scene of the chase was filmed in 3 countries and 4 locations: a village outside of London, tunnels and a castle in Naples, suburban roads near Rome, and a beach in Wales. Then there are the spy gadgets, made or borrowed from KGB and CIA museums.
Tools, but I've got to say I'm quite attracted to this. But you got one of those as well. It's a radio.
You know, that was a major part as we grew up. That, you know, every Bond there was a new gadget, and the idea that this gadget had gone from this big to this big.
What is that?
Super hardened boron sharpened with a CO2 laser.
Was always terribly exciting.
CO2 laser.
And renovated 60s era cars.
If you get a period vehicle today, they're either completely fallen apart or they're these absolutely gorgeous trophy cars that are being meticulously maintained. Obviously, you want something in between. You want something that looks like it's actually been used at the time.
Do you mind terribly if I borrow your car?
Jokes, like the fact that Illya Kuryakin never called Napoleon Solo by name.
Loving your work, cowboy. Cowboy? You're a terrible spy, cowboy. You can get back on your horse now, cowboy.
And the aforementioned rails in the walls. Most of the viewers thought this fragment was made with computer graphics. But no, there were rails in the wall.
We built a roller coaster rig, which would allow the car to be suspended and have the artist inside as well.
Good plan.
Then, of course, the soundtrack. Critics considered it to be the crowning glory of the film. Shooting ended in the early spring of 2014. The editing and post-production lasted over 3 months. In the process, Guy had the idea to transform a 5-minute scene of the siege of the Vinci Guerra base into a 1-minute supercut.
I think we've just seen too many raids on too many castles. So I'm not sure if we cared about how it was that we were going to get into the castle. So anyway, we did have lots of footage.
And I think there's a natural length to a film. I'll lean on the side of being heavy with the scissors.
So in all those little vignettes, we've crammed in as much information as we can that we actually shot in, I don't know, 50 seconds or whatever it is, instead of a 6-minute sequence. Because the truth was, a 6-minute sequence was a bit of a bore.
If there's one word I'd like to summarize this film as being, it would be fresh.
The premiere was set for the 16th of January 2015, but Warner pushed the date to the beginning of August.
What I'm about to feed you, Solo, might taste a little bitter. Nevertheless, you're gonna have to swallow it.
As a result, Agents of U.N.C.L.E. opened a week and a half after Mission Impossible: Rogue Nation, and 2 months before 007 Spectre, and on the same day as the comedy Pixels. Combined with harsh critiques and negative reviews, the spy comedy was practically buried alive. It made $100 million at the box office and had no hope of a sequel, though both the director and the lead actors continue to search for an investor for it, the first scenes of which are shown in the credits of the film.
Absolutely hated working with you, Pearl.
You're a terrible spy, cowboy.